G'day mates, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about all the weapons and items that I want in Season 7. This is basically going to be my weapon wish list. I wanted to do like a map wish list, a competitive wish list, but the video is going to be way too long, so I'm probably going to split those up over a few days because I have a lot to say about the weapons in Fortnite right now and what I think they could be in the next season. So I'm going to jump straight into it. Some of these things I think a lot of you guys will agree with. Some of them I think a lot of you guys are going to disagree with. I'm going to talk about why I think that potentially there should be charged levi and tac shotgun meta over pump meta, why I don't particularly like items like shockwaves, like crash pads, and just all that kind of stuff in between. If you don't agree with me, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below, but please try to give me some constructive reasons, not just you're an idiot, pump good, you bad, okay? Like, let's try and make it a good conversation here, okay? Just quickly, before we jump into today's video, I want to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, Wondershare Filmora 10. It is a program that you can download today for free using the link in the description down below to edit any kind of content you want. You can download it on both PC and Mac, and whether you're making gaming content like me, whether you're making montages on video games, if you're making a Fortnite montage, it has so many cool features to make sure that you make the best content possible, and it's so incredibly simple to use. Wondershare Filmora 10 is getting constant fantastic updates. For example, if you guys are on Mac, you now have access to auto reframing and keyframing, which are just two fantastic features to let you make any kind of content you want look that much smoother and that much cleaner. For those of you guys, I know most of you are going to use this to make montages. This makes tracking and getting clips so much simpler and makes them look absolutely beautiful. If you guys have thought about making content, there's no better time than now. Click the link in the description down below to download Wondershare Filmora 10 for free. Or if you're just looking for a new program, I highly recommend you guys try it out. Before I jump into specifics on which weapons I like more, because I'm going to break down each main category of weapons. I'm going to talk about shotguns, assault rifles, mobility, all that stuff. I want to talk about my logic behind why I want next season to be more fun than more competitive. And don't jump all over that. Let me explain first. So I was one of those people that thought I wanted a super competitive meta. I just wanted ARs, shotguns, maybe SMGs, a little bit of mobility, if no mobility, and that was it. Didn't want snipers, didn't want any fun items, didn't want bows, wanted none of that. I thought that's genuinely what I wanted. After now having that for the last 2 seasons, basically, like, yeah, we've had the primal weapons in, yeah, we've had the bows, but for the most part, this season has 0 mobility pretty much. Last season only had bounce pads. Last season, I think, would arguably the most competitive of any season. If we had the current pump meta in last season, I'd probably have to say that is the most competitive meta you could possibly make. And I don't want that. I know that sounds crazy because I love competitive Fortnite. I do with all my heart. And I watch the game more than I play it. But I genuinely think for the health of the game and the future of the game, I think we need a bit more fun. I'll be the first one to admit I was wrong. I told Epic, take out all the crazy stuff, take out all the bounce pads, the shockwaves, the launch pads, take that all out. I want a really fair, balanced, competitive meta. It's so boring. It's really so genuinely boring. I don't want mechs to come back. I don't want the caddy launcher to come back, but I want some fun stuff. Even if I think that might reduce the skill gap a little bit, but it'll add a bit more fun, I think that's better for the game. I don't think I've ever seen a time in Fortnite's history where pros are just so bored of the game. It doesn't matter how good the competitive meta is. It doesn't matter how skillful it is. If pros are just bored, and I mean, you and I are probably just bored and don't want to play it, it's not going to be worth it. Fortnite is never going to be a truly competitive game. And I think that's okay. Just from everything, from the fact that all tournaments are open to anyone to play in, which leads to a whole bunch of issues of obviously worst players griefing, all that kind of stuff. I think to get rid of all that, to make tournaments, you have to join an org to join a tournament. You have to be, on a certain team. You have to go through a certain level of qualifications. And then we have a meta that's only ARs, shotguns, you spawn in with mini. Like, if we made it that truly competitive game, I genuinely think it would kill Fortnite. So before I talk about my rationale behind the weapons I want in the next meta, keep that in mind. I want to find that balance between it still being competitive, but really fun. Think about World Cup. World Cup is the meta a lot of people think has of, oh, I wish I could go back to the World Cup Fortnite. That was arguably one of the worst, least competitive metas ever. You had Rift to Goes, shockwaves, heavy snipers, broken drum guns, combat shotguns, like the game was at its by far most broken. You had ballers to zip around the map forever and never fight anyone. If you got a combat shotgun on spawn and your enemy didn't, and they were literally a god, you would beat them every time. It was just unbeatable. You'd have pros like Clicks at one point running double drum gun, no shotguns. Zero ping players could just take everyone's wall and like, it wasn't a good meta. You could heavy snipe through walls, but it was fun. I don't want to go that far, but I want you to keep that in mind when I talk about things today, that a lot of the metas that you miss and you enjoyed the most, like let's talk about, I think chapter 2, season 2 was it? You know, when you had Grotto Shark, you had the miniguns, you had the grappler, all that kind of crazy stuff. That wasn't a super competitive meta, but it was really fun and we all loved it. That's what I want to go back to. I don't want to go all the way back to just mechs and craziness and all that, but I think we need to find a middle ground where we start to come back towards having a little bit more fun. Even just for arena. I know it's impossible to have a loot pool split between arena and competitive, which sucks, because if it were in a perfect world, I would love to have a pub loot pool and meta, which is just craziness, just literally everything, have fun, go crazy, casuals. Then I would want to have arena that's a little bit more competitive. You have Siphon, you have mat farming, and then you don't have all the crazy items, but you still have some of them. And then maybe like a competitive tournament meta that didn't have all the crazy stuff, but had a little bit of it. You know what I mean? Like, I know that doesn't work because to do customs and to do scrims, you have to use arena. So you couldn't do that too much, but I want a fun arena meta. I really do. And I do think you can find the balance of having a fun arena meta that's also competitive. But yeah, just wanted to preface that. I hope you guys agree with that. If you don't, again, let me know in the comments. Do you want a crazy meta where everything's insane, or do you want a super competitive meta and you don't agree with me at all? With that in mind, let's kick off with usually what I think is the most important part of a season's meta, the shotgun meta. I think right now we're in one of the most competitive shotgun metas ever. And if we went into next season with the same shotgun meta, obviously no primals, I'd be pretty happy. I think reducing purple pumps from 200 potential damage to 189 was one of the most underrated changes in Fortnite's history. Now, if you get a spaz, you feel rewarded. You feel like you have a powerful gun that can do a lot. But if you're going up against a spaz, it doesn't feel truly unbeatable unless it's a legendary one. Where you go back to, you know, I'm thinking like Stark meta. Yeah, it was fun running through arena, just dropping Stark, getting a pump, running around and one pumping people. But if you're ever playing a cash cup, or if you're just playing arena and you didn't drop Stark or you didn't get a spaz and you went up against someone who had one, it just felt so unfair. You try to peek any angle and you're just scared they're going to 200 pump you at any time. So I think if we had just pumps in the meta, I think it would be a good mix of being fun and competitive, and I'd be truly happy with that. Also, for the sake of today's video, I want crafting gone completely. I don't want any primals. I'm not going to talk about primals. I just want crafting and primals to go away. Crafting just takes longer to do. It adds RNG and the weapons aren't that different where they're any fun. So I don't want makeshifts. I don't want primals. So I'm just going to put that out there now. Not going to talk about that really for the rest of the video. Now, but I want to preface that. I love the pump meta. If it was just pumps, that'd be great. But I really think the game had a fun element when we had tax, charges, and lever. Maybe even just lever and charge and not the tack. I think that was a really fun choice where different players and different play styles lended themselves to different guns. You'd have your friend, or you'd be really good with the charge. Your friend would be really good with the lever. If you were playing solos and you felt like, you know, you're in a good lobby, you want to play more defensive, you'd run the charge, but you'd swap to, you know, the lever end game. Or, you know, if you were playing duos with your friends and you were W King, you want to play aggressive, maybe you run the lever or the tack, because some people like the tack more. I like that diversity. I like the fact that you can pick the gun you want based on your play style, and you get into a fight with someone and, you know, you pull out your lever and you realize they have a charge. So you now play differently because they have certain advantages and you have certain advantages. I find that really, really fun. And if that came back, I'd be truly, truly happy. At the same time though, I do think if pumps stayed around and it was just pumps, maybe pumps and tax, because you know, the tacks are pretty good right now. I think they're not as good as the pumps, but they have a decent purpose. You can, you know, take walls with them easier. If your aim isn't as good, the tack is really good for casual players, which I think if you just had only pumps in a meta, casuals would suffer a lot. And I do, when I talk about a lot of stuff today, I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind, because as much as I want a game that caters to just me and just competitive and just people who know how to play the game at least decently, that's not the reality. We need to make sure the casuals are catered for, because if they aren't, the game's gonna die. So I think either two metas, tack and pump meta, the way they are currently, is really, really good, or bring back a lever and charge meta, maybe lever, charge, tack, but I do really like just two shotguns in the meta. I'm going to move on to mobility next because I think mobility is the second most important thing for shaping a meta after the shotguns. I really like just bounce pads. I think the game is truly fantastically competitive with just bounce pads. I think that is when Fortnite's at its peak. If you use a bounce pad well, if you rotate to dead side on rotating zones, bounce pad across, you save like 300-400 mats, you get your whole team there, you base up and you're good. If you use it terribly in front of everyone, you get beamed. If you try to use it to go for high ground wrong, you get beamed, but you can use it to, disengage off height. But if you try to do it too early, you get beamed. I think it's a really, really balanced form of mobility. But again, doubling back to what I said at the start of the video, I want a bit more fun. I really do. But I don't like shockwaves and I don't like crash pads. They are two of my least favorite forms of mobility. Why? Because they lead to exploits and they lead to just chaos. I don't like when someone's mobility affects me like that. The amount of times you be tarping, you're great, I'm on a good layer, and then all of a sudden a dude shockwaves beneath you, it breaks your floor, you fall down and you die, and there's no counterplay. Or your end game, you're boxed up, you're looking good, you're 4-4-4 mats, you're ready for the next zone, and then you've got old mate Jimmy who's got 20 health and a gold spaz, and he walks up, crash pads through your wall and pumps you in the head. I don't like that. I don't think the crash pads and shockwaves are inherently bad as mobility. Maybe if there was a way to make them not break builds, like maybe you have like an impulse grenade that sends you further like a shockwave and you don't take fall damage, but it doesn't break build. So you can only use it to rotate. You can only use it to maybe jump up to height, but you can't use it for exploits and you can't just break builds. I think that would be great. Also, it's not a coincidence. It has never been like 100% confirmed by Epic, but I think crash pads and shockwaves, when they're breaking a lot of builds endgame, that really increases server lag. I think that was some of the metas where we saw the most amount of lag, and when it usually happened was endgame rotating zones when lots of shockwaves and crash pads were going off. I know it's endgame and endgames always lag, but there's a lot of people who've talked about the amount of server strain that puts on the game to render, 80 builds just breaking all at once is really quite a lot. So for that reason, I'm not too happy with it either. As far as the other forms of mobility, shadow bombs are really, really cool in my opinion. I think they're super balanced as far as a form of comp rotation. If you use them poorly, you get boxed up. You can't shoot while using them. They are a little bit easy and they are a little bit cheesy, especially from running away from fights mid-game. The more mobility you add back, I think a lot of people forget that you can just use it to run forever. You get a guy to 10 HP during World Cup meta, they'd shadow bomb, they'd short pad, they'd shadow bomb again. It was just, I don't really want that too much. And in a trios meta, I don't think shadow bombs will fit too well. If they do come back, I think you should only be able to carry a max of 3. 6 was way too broken. Maybe they drop in stacks of just 1 or 2 and you can carry 3 would maybe be a good way to do it, but I don't mind. As far as rifts are just way too broken. They take no skill. You just use them and then you fly straight down to front side. Yes, as people's aim gets better, you get beamed out of the sky if you use them poorly. But again, mid-game fights, you get someone low, they've rift. Now you got to follow the rift. You got to chase them. You got to go down. They rift again. I'm not a huge fan of it. Launch pads I love, but I truly think the reason they were taken out is because Epic just can't fix glider bug. And if they can fix glider bug and we get launch pads back, that is perfect. Bounces and launch pads, that's it. That is the perfect rotation meta in my mind, but I've kind of just forgotten about launch pads because I just truly think that's why we're not getting them, because Epic could never fix the glider bug. I'm not a software developer. I'm not a game developer. I can't tell you why they can't fix it. It might be a super hard bug. I don't know. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt on that one. As far as other forms of mobility, I know it's not really mobility, but a weapon I'd love to see come back for being super fun and really skillful if used well is the flint knock. I love the flint knock. I think it's really, really fun. It lets trick shotters get back into the game. It makes pubs fun. It makes arena fun. If you find one on spawn and you don't have a shotgun, use it well. You can really win a fight. I think the headshot hitbox is a little bit too big. You could hit someone like anywhere in this range and you're flint knocking them for like 180 to the head. So either reduce the damage or, in my opinion, make it more skillful by reducing the hitbox, but keep it as a nice, really heavy headshot. That's kind of my opinion on mobility. As far as other forms of mobility, I do want to see hoverboards come back. I think permanent rotation and rotational items like hoverboards that are balanced is fantastic. I think if you have geysers around the map, if you have even those drones we used to have on the old map where you could fly up, I think those are really good because they reduce the RNG. If you know where they are and you know your drop spots rotations, you can play into them if you get bad early zones. They are a bit crazy endgame, but I still think they're kind of fun. Maybe just make it that after it gets to half, they turn off, so you can't just have an end game finish on geysers. And I think hoverboards are really good too. You get around around the map. You can have fun with them. They're a great item to just fly around on. It's a modern meta. It's going to be aliens, so a lot of us are thinking we're going to be in the future or something like that. And if you use them badly, though, you get beamed. You can't just rotate like you can in a baller, but if you use it well, it's really good. So that's kind of my overarching view on mobility, I guess. Assault rifle meta should naturally come next. It's pretty important, but we've always had the regular AR. I don't think that's going to change. The one thing I wanted to talk about again, primal AR, get it out. I hate it. Makeshift AR, get it out. I hate it. No assault rifle should ever not have first shot accuracy in a game, in a competitive game, in a shooter. If my target's on someone at range, I should shoot and I should hit them. It's that simple. Unless it's a gun that has lead, like if you're looking at Apex Legends or Warzone, the guns aren't hit scanned, so you have to lead ahead of them a little bit. That's fine. That's still skillful. I'm okay with that. But having a makeshift, having this clip, this is one of my most viral clips I've ever put up. It's me literally just unloading a full clip into an NPC from 15 meters away and not hitting a single bullet. That's not okay. It's just not. So regular AR, I want to stay. As far as infantry, it's fun. I like it, but unless you have tac shotguns, it's really not that good. But then sometimes it'll be insane where someone will hit 3 headshots in a row and now you're dead in half a second. So it's a fun item. I like it, but I would much prefer burst rifles. I think the best AR meta is regular assault rifles like SCARs and just normal ARs, and then burst rifles. I don't like heavy ARs. They just feel like worse normal ARs that just have more bloom and aren't that fun to use. I don't like the silenced AR, same thing, just worse bloom, not really that strong. But I think the choice between running a regular AR and a burst AR is really healthy for the game. If you back your shots and you're really clinical and precise with your aim, you can hit clean double taps with a burst. But if you run the burst and now you pump someone close range and your aim's not as good, you can't just spray and follow them. You've got to hit your shots. Same with pressuring walls. If you choose to run a burst rifle, you're going to be better at mid to long range. But if it comes to a close range box fight and you get someone low and you try to pressure their walls and all you've got is a pump and a burst, it's not going to do as well. So again, like I said with my shotgun meta, it adds those different choices and it adds that different ability to express your own playstyle. You get to play a certain way that might be different to other people, but if you do it right, it works. So that's kind of what I want for assault rifles. SMGs, just one SMG, and I don't want them to be too strong. As soon as you buff SMGs too hard and, controller players or just even mouse and keyboard players start using them over shotguns, you've gone too far. An SMG should never be used over a shotgun. It should be used to apply pressure and to spray, and depending on the meta, sometimes you can run, infantry rifle, SMG shotgun, maybe SMG shotgun sniper, SMG shotgun bow, but really, the SMG should never be replacing a shotgun, and if it is, something's going wrong. I don't want 2-3 types of SMGs. They're not that fun to use. They're not that different. They just clog up the loot pool. Just one SMG, if any, and I'm happy. Now, sniper meta. This is an interesting one. I love snipers. I'm a boomer. I'm decent with a sniper. If I ever make a montage, if you've ever noticed, half of it's sniper clips. It lends to my playstyle. And for arena, I find them really fun. As frustrating as it is when you're running or you're driving and you get one shot in the head, the fun that comes from being able to no scope, be able to snipe, and just have fun with the item, to me, outweighs the negatives. But again, I'm not a pro player. I'm not someone who has ever competed for hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, and had that ruined because I get bow headshot or one-shot sniper headshot. So again, this would be the kind of situation where I would love snipers or bows or one kind of one-shot weapon in arena, but not have it in tournaments. But I've already talked about how I know that's not possible, but this one I'm kind of torn on. When there's no sniper in the meta, I'm like, okay, fair. That's good. Competitive players, I'm not going to get one shot in the head when I'm having a good game. All right. But then when it is, I'm like, ooh, I'm going to hit some clips. I'm going to have some fun. Like, I don't know. I'm really torn. For selfish reasons, I like the sniper. I can't really justify having it in a competitive game. Like I said, especially solos. It's FNCS All-Stars. Solos is coming up in a few weeks. Just imagine Tayson's about to win it, and then Thomas HD, because he's a freak, just hits him with a 200-meter headshot snipe. Tayson can't do anything about that. No amount of preparation or game knowledge or skill is able to avoid that. He now dies and he doesn't win. That's not okay. But I love hitting snipes, so I'll leave this one up to you guys. I don't know. One thing I will say, the bows have been nerfed recently with the draw time of the mechanical bow. I think snipers are more skillful than bows. I genuinely think that. I don't know how people don't believe that. Sniper, you don't get to have like an actual, target that tells you how much it's gonna dip and how much it's gonna hit for. Also, bows, you can charge up and then step out and shoot or jump and shoot. You can't do that with a sniper. So when you're sniping, you need to be way smarter about when you peek. If you peek for too long, you get headshot sniped. So I like snipers over bows, as fun as bows are. I just wanted to add that as well. I know this is a weird one, but I actually think that med metas affect Fortnite more than people realize. Firstly, chug splashes. If it's a trios game mode, if it's FNCS trios or it's a team-based game mode, chug splashes should be in the game. I know why they aren't though, and one of the main reasons is heal-offs, and I think heal-offs need to be addressed. I like floppers, I like small fries, I like slurpfish, I like chug splashes. Meds that you can easily eat to give you a fair bit of health if you've got that, to give you a bit of a loot advantage or to reward players who've, dropped edge map to do some fishing or spend a bit more time fishing. I'm okay with that. In early and mid-game fights, I don't like heal-offs though. Right now, with only medkits and floppers in the meta, we are seeing way less heal-offs, and I think that's also due to no mobility. Players are running out of material before closed out zones, so they can't just box up and go for heal offs. We've seen a fair few medkit heal offs, which I like. I think they're really skillful. You got to take a ticker zone, you got to base up and block yourself, then you got to pop it. I like that, but it's so simple. Just make floppers and chug splashes even heal you for less when you're in zone. If you want to make it like cool and artistic, you can just make floppers just go rotten. Just have fish go rotten in zone. If you stay in zone for too long, they go rotten, and now when you eat them, they only give you like 5 or 10 health or something. Or just make it the longer you're in storm, you get a negative heal buff. Just make it if you're in storm for 10 seconds, you now get healed for 40% less or 30% less. And then if it's 20 seconds, it's 50 and then 60. And so it just negates heal off. So you can step out of storm for like 10 seconds. You can play the edge of storm, or early game if you get stuck in storm, or maybe make this only be a thing that happens in, I don't know, like half zones or later. So you can still pull like EMAD GG storm strats early game, which again, I'm not a huge fan of, but if some kid psychos you and holds you edge of first zone and you've got 3 med kids, it's nice that you can still get in, but we need to fix heal offs. But I don't think just getting rid of good healing items because they can also be used for heal offs is the way to do it. So I think right now the meta for heals is pretty good. Bring chug splashes back in, but then just do one of those options or do something to nerf endgame heal offs. All right, guys, that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. Don't worry, I know what you're thinking. Aussie, you didn't talk anything about drop spots, the map, 100% chest spawn. I'm gonna do that in another video. I have a lot to talk about on this topic, and I love talking about this stuff. I just always thought that you guys really wouldn't want to hear it that much, but every video I make like this, where I just give you my thoughts on a topic, you seem to love. So I'm gonna do another video talking very soon about my thoughts on the map, because that is the biggest part of the new season for me. If I get all of these item changes, but I load back in and only one POI is changed in the center of the map, I'm gonna freak out. That's my biggest thoughts, and this is where I want to talk about having enough POIs for all the teams, 100% chest spawn, all of that. So that is coming, don't worry. But I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please chuck a like on it. Let me know in the comments section down below your thoughts on anything I talked about. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It would mean the world to me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.